What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, well, we got to talk about the Game Awards. I guess what else is new? We've talked about it a lot the last 2 weeks, and I got more videos even coming over the weekend. However, we had Andy Robinson over from Video Games Chronicle kind of throwing, not like a wrench, but just actually almost like a stick of dynamite that explodes, but in a good way. Not in a way that hurts anybody, but in a way that kind of drums up excitement. And let's go over his tweet. Expecting a very big Game Awards next week. Fire up the hype train. And I don't know how many times he responded. I only see this one, I guess, like right away. One person asked, is that a guess or a hint? And he said, definitely not a guess. And now, I don't know the guy personally. We're not friends. I don't hate the guy, but we don't exchange conversation or anything. But one thing that I do like Video Games Chronicle as like a site. I think it's actually one of the better ones out there. In terms of reviews, I trust them just as much as I kind of trust everybody. But I do think it's actually a well-run site, and it's good. But for him specifically, he seems like a more level-headed guy. And I mean, again, like take it with a grain of salt, or take it for what it is from me saying it. Again, like I don't go out to dinner dates with him or anything. I don't know, but he doesn't seem to be somebody that's going to say something like that just to do it, just to mislead. You know what I mean? Now it could maybe he's feeling energetic today or whatever. But from everything that I've seen of the guy over the last couple of years that I've like known of his existence, he seems like more of like a level-headed person where he's not gonna say something like that if he doesn't legitimately think it's possible. Now, does that mean that maybe a big game for him isn't a big game for me? That could happen. So for me, like Wonder Woman would be a massive game, right? Like if we saw Wonder Woman, or if we saw, I always go to like the Resident Evils or Personas. I mean, those are big games, but you do have to remember, like, not every game is for everybody. Even a game such as GTA. GTA 6 is gigantic. It's going to be the biggest game really of all time. There's going to be people that don't like it. There's going to be people that are just not into it. Like, flat out, it's not their type of game. That is real, and that is legitimate, and I don't think people necessarily think about that until they maybe see different circles kind of on the internet and stuff. But like that is a real thing. So that's kind of the one, like to play devil's advocate, that's probably the one thing I can think of where it's like, a big game to him might not be a big game to me. So like if, a Call of Duty is a big game any year, right? I mean, it varies a little, but it's normally always very big. And then it kind of has like a tier that it kind of bounces up and down. So like a new Call of Duty game announcement is big to a lot of people, but it's not, it truly, like, it just goes right over my head. It's not that I don't respect the franchise, it just goes right over. I don't really care, right? That could be this situation. The site he's a part of and the kind of guy he seems to be, I feel like it's going to have some things. We've talked a lot in the past 2 weeks. I've made dozens of videos at this point, a lot of games. So I don't know, it's something where I still stand by a lot of the stuff I've said about a lot of these games, leading up to today. The thing is, like, it's odd, like, how I want to word it. Like, I'm not expecting anything, if that makes sense. Like, if you ask me for any specific game, I would say there was maybe something like Mafia. I think like is going to be there just because of the lead up and what they've said. Borderlands 4, like Randy Pitchford talking about the trailer he's not supposed to talk about. Where would you release a trailer for Borderlands? The Game Awards. Crimson Desert, they've, like, the CEO was freaking ass about that being at the Game Awards, and he almost said yes. So like there's some games that are like for sure gonna be there, but beyond that, if you ask me about Persona, Resident Evil, Tomb Raider, stuff like that, I want all of these games there, but I don't know, maybe it's just a point in my life or a point in my like thinking. I'm not expecting any specific game to be there. What I am expecting though is a good show, which is maybe that's kind of weird, like just saying it that way, but I think it is going to be a big show. I think we're going to walk away saying like, yeah, like that was, we got plenty of announcements, games of all walks of life. But I still don't want to like hammer myself down on like any one specific game of like, oh yeah, that game is totally, besides the ones I said. I mean, some games have given hints or whatever the case might be that it's going to happen. A lot of them are potentials, but they're not, guarantees, right? But I mean, you can go wild. I mean, you can take his tweet to say, oh, GTA 6, like what would make him say that, right? You can play that kind of game. And GTA 6 could say that. You know, Kingdom Hearts, I think, would make it a massive thing. Showing Gears of War, you know, for Xbox, or say a Naughty Dog game, right? Just showing a brand new IP Naughty Dog game, you know, would be gigantic, right? So just go down, like, think of a company and then think of like a couple games that would just make it like unreal, right? And then just like fit it. And you can make that argument, and you could say, well, that's why he's sending that kind of tweet. And I would agree. You know, again, like the ones I default to is like Resident Evil. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that is a big game. I think it appeals to a wide range of people. I think that would be classified as a big game that would make the Game Awards massive. Use that same definition. Persona, same thing. Tomb Raider, same thing. You know, there's a couple of them. And some games, you know, like GTA, we've talked about, maybe it's too big for the Game Awards, things like that. But I don't know. As I've talked about, I think I mentioned in a live stream earlier today, like, Jeff Keighley is not really talking about it. Like, he did like the hype trailer. He is announcing presenters. Normally, I mean, like Snoop Dogg, right? But he's as a performance. I should like finish my sentences for once in my life. But you know, he's not really saying like, oh, these 10 games are going to be there. You know, for Summer Game Fest, by the time you get to it, you know, like 40 revealed. I remember, like, I'm just trying to think back in previous years. Like, I can picture in my head tweets from him where he shows like all the confirmed things that are going to be there, and it's like a list of like 20 things. Like, you know, half the show by the time you get to that. And I mean, that's a little bit more because it's, you know, it's not as big as the Game Awards. He has to hype it up more, so he has to give you more. But the Game Awards, he normally has a couple things. Like, do we know any legitimate thing that's happening? Like, for sure that he has said, yes, it's going to be there. Again, Mafia is almost for sure, Borderlands, etc. But, you know, by now, I think we would have had like 5 things confirmed. You're going to see this. You're going to see Black Myth Wukong DLC, which I think also is going to be there, right? Like, he would have confirmed some of these things, and he hasn't confirmed, I don't think, anything when I'm recording. Maybe it changes. Maybe this upcoming week he starts doing it. But I think that's a sign. I think that's a sign of like he's got a lot of big stuff. So like, what can you show? Like, what can you say? Even saying a Black Myth DLC, that's pretty big. Black Myth sold like 30 million units. Like, that's one of the highest selling games of all time. Like, it getting a DLC is kind of a big deal. Do you want to say that before the show, or do you want to save it for the show? And you can make that argument. Would you say Resident Evil? Of course not. Would you say Judas? Of course not. You know, there's a lot of games you would not actually tease ahead of time because they're so big, and you have a lot of those as potential. So you can go as crazy as you want. Ultimately, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but that's just kind of my thoughts on it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.